Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a really specific moment found in the 25th chapter of the book of Acts.
Right. This chapter picks up with a new Roman governor, Festus. He's just arrived, and he basically inherits this, well, complicated situation with a prisoner named Paul, left over from the previous governor, Felix.
Yeah, and our plan is to unpack what happens next, the sequence of events, what motivates the people involved, and honestly, the sort of unexpected legal and religious twists that come up. It all builds towards a pretty dramatic stand by Paul, based just on what this chapter tells us.
It really is a fascinating mix, you know? Law, power politics, and deeply held beliefs all colliding.
Okay, let's jump right in. So, Festus arrives in Caesarea, the provincial capital, but he doesn't exactly settle in first. The text says just 3 days later, he heads up to Jerusalem.
Right, straight into the thick of it. And wouldn't you know it, the chief priests and Jewish leaders are right there waiting for him. They waste absolutely no time bringing up Paul.
And it's not just bringing him up. They have a specific request, don't they? They want Paul transferred, moved from Caesarea to Jerusalem.
Exactly. They make it sound urgent. But the text gives us the inside scoop. Their real plan was sinister. They wanted him moved so they could set up an ambush on the road and kill him.
That puts a whole different light on their request.
Yeah.
So how does Festus handle this?
Well, he doesn't go for it. Maybe he sensed something, maybe it was just Roman procedure, but he refuses the transfer. He tells them, basically, look, Paul's secure in Caesarea. I'm going back there soon. If you have charges, send your leaders down there.
Okay, so he pushes back. Festus spends, what, about 8 or 10 days in Jerusalem, then heads back to the coast to Caesarea.
And the very next day, he's holding court. No messing around.
Paul's brought in. The accusers from Jerusalem are there, just like Festus said. And the text mentions they surround Paul, bringing many serious charges against him.
But here's the crucial bit, especially under Roman law. Lots of charges, yes, but the text explicitly states they could not prove them.
Ah, proof. That's the key. No evidence, no case.
Right, pretty much. And Paul's defense, it's straightforward. He says, essentially, I've done nothing wrong. Not against Jewish law, not against the temple, and definitely not against Caesar. He covers all the bases.
So you'd think that might be it locally. Charges made, no proof offered. But Festus makes a move here. The text says he was wishing to do the Jews a favor. What does he do?
He asks Paul this really loaded question. Are you willing to go up to Jerusalem and stand trial there before me?
On the surface, maybe seems like a compromise, trying to appease the leaders. But given the ambush plot we know about.
Exactly. It's incredibly dangerous for Paul. And Paul sees it. His response is, well, it's powerful.
What does he say?
He basically stands on his rights as a Roman. He says, I'm already standing before Caesar's court right here in Caesarea. This is where I should be tried. He even tells Festus, you know perfectly well I haven't actually wronged the Jews.
He pushes back hard.
He does. He says, look, if I've done something worthy of death, I'll face it. And this is the core of it, if these charges they're bringing are false, then nobody, not even you, Governor, has the right to just hand me over to them to appease them.
Wow. That's Paul really understanding and using the Roman legal system. And then comes the big moment.
Yeah, with the charges unproven, the political pressure mounting, and this risky suggestion of going to Jerusalem, Paul plays his trump card. He declares, I appeal to Caesar.
The appeal to the emperor himself. That changes everything.
Absolutely. Festus talks it over quickly with his counsel, but the decision is made. He tells Paul, you have appealed to Caesar you will go. So Paul's fate is now redirected. He's off to Rome.
It's a brilliant move by Paul, really. Gets him out of that immediate local pressure cooker. But it does create a new kind of problem for Festus, doesn't it?
It certainly does, because a few days later, some important visitors arrive in Caesarea, King Agrippa and his sister Bernice. They're there to, pay their respects to the new governor.
A state visit, basically.
Right. And they end up staying for quite a while. So Festus, probably still puzzling over this Paul situation, sees an opportunity. He decides to run the case by Agrippa.
Why Agrippa specifically?
Well, Agrippa was knowledgeable about Jewish customs and religious matters, far more than Festus was. Festus needs some insight.
Makes sense. So Festus explains the whole backstory. Inheriting Paul, the demands from Jerusalem, insisting on a proper hearing.
Yes, he lays it all out. He tells Agrippa how he brought the accusers down, held the trial, and then he mentions what really threw him. He says the charges weren't what he expected at all.
What did he expect? Like rebellion or something?
Probably something like that, yeah. Sedition, disturbing the peace, things a Roman governor would recognize as crimes.
Yeah.
But Festus tells Agrippa, no, it wasn't about any of that.
So what was it about, according to Festus?
He sums it up for Agrippa as some points of dispute about their own religion and about a dead man named Jesus who Paul claimed was alive.
Okay, you can almost hear Festus's confusion there. From his Roman perspective, this huge uproar is about internal religious arguments and a claim about resurrection.
Exactly. Festus admits he was completely at a loss how to investigate such matters. I mean, what Roman law covers claiming someone came back from the dead? It just didn't compute in his legal framework.
So that confusion is why he even suggested the Jerusalem trial earlier, hoping maybe they could sort it out there.
That seems to be part of his explanation to Agrippa, yes. But since Paul then appealed to Caesar, well, now he has to send him to Rome, which leads to Festus's very practical headache.
Which is?
He tells Agrippa point blank, I have nothing definite to write to his majesty about him. You can't just ship a prisoner off to the emperor without clear charges. It sounds ridiculous, right? Sending him because he argues about religion and claims a dead man is alive?
Yeah, that wouldn't look good on the official report.
Not at all. So Festus explains that's why he's bringing Paul before this assembly, especially before Agrippa. He desperately needs help figuring out what specific charges to put in his letter to Caesar. He says it's unreasonable to send on a prisoner without specifying the charges.
He needs Agrippa's cultural and religious expertise to translate this whole mess into Roman legal terms.
Precisely. Agrippa. He's immediately interested. He says, I would like to hear this man myself.
Festus must have been relieved.
Oh, absolutely. He immediately agrees. Tomorrow you will hear him.
So this stage is set for another hearing, but this one's different. It's not really a trial, is it? It's more like an information gathering session for Festus.
Exactly. And the next day, it's quite the scene. Agrippa and Bernice arrive with, the text says, great pomp, high-ranking military officers, leading citizens. It's a formal, high-status audience.
And Paul is brought in again.
Right. Festus addresses the whole room. He points out Paul mentions how the entire Jewish community, both in Jerusalem and locally, has been demanding his death, shouting that he ought not to live any longer.
He emphasizes the pressure he's been under.
Yes, but then he repeats his own finding. I found he had done nothing deserving of death. He makes it clear he doesn't see a capital crime here.
But he has to send him to Rome anyway.
Because Paul appealed. Festus reiterates that, and then he states the purpose of this gathering one more time, very clearly, especially looking at Agrippa. I've brought him before you all, so that as a result of this investigation, I may have something to write. He needs substance for his report to Caesar.
This whole chapter, Acts 25, it really highlights this clash, doesn't it? You've got the Roman legal system, all about evidence and defined crimes.
Smashing right into Jewish religious law, beliefs about messiahs, resurrection, things completely outside the Roman legal categories. Festus is just baffled trying to classify these accusations.
And the politics are thick, too. The Jewish leaders plot, Festus trying to balance Roman justice with, keeping the local leaders somewhat happy that doing the Jews a favor line.
It's a tightrope walk. And you see how Festus himself perceives the core issue. It's disputes about their own religion and this claim about a dead man named Jesus who Paul claimed was alive. That's what he's struggling to articulate.
Meanwhile, Paul's navigating this expertly, understanding his Roman citizenship, his rights, and making that strategic appeal to Caesar. He takes it out of the local quagmire.
He forces the issue onto a different stage. But it leaves Festus with this fundamental administrative challenge. How do you write a formal Roman legal report about accusations rooted entirely in religious belief and claims about resurrection?
Yeah, it's quite the dilemma. So this deep dive into Acts 25 really shows how a case that started with Festus inheriting a prisoner spirals into this tangle of legal maneuvers, political pressures, and this fundamental disconnect between worldviews. Paul's appeal solves one problem, but creates this huge bureaucratic and, frankly, intellectual puzzle for Festus.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how different systems of understanding, whether it's law or science or culture, grapple with things that just don't fit neatly into their boxes. How do you handle something that your framework wasn't built to contain?
That's a really interesting thought to leave with. When established systems encounter something truly outside their scope, what happens?
Something to ponder, definitely.
Absolutely. Thanks for walking through this chapter with us on The Deep Dive.